Hey everybody, apologize. We've had a little technical difficulty trying to go live before the Steelers game tonight. We are a little bit late, so I know that your lineups are locked. But hopefully this game was at least it's a little bit easier to predict. So if you have any of the Steelers main players in your lineup. And the main players for the Giants in your lineup, you're doing what you're supposed to. Definitely start Ben if you have him as your QB1. Definitely starting Connor, things like that. But just to go ahead and just to get it broken down and not skip over it like it doesn't matter to us, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Drew and let him give us some information about some of these players. So not only can you watch the game tonight and diagnose what they look like week one, but you also have a look of what they did last year as well. So you can so next week when we do a rundown on the Sunday night or the Sunday games, you'll be a little bit more informed about the Steelers. So we're not skipping over them this week and leaving out any information for you. So Drew, why don't you go ahead and take it over?
All right. Really quickly, as far as the Steelers go, like you said, of course you want to start Ben Roethlisberger. I have him projected at 16 points. The Steelers are projected to have a top 4 passing attack this year, and I think Big Ben's ready to prove he still has something in the tank after only playing 2 games last year. But in 2018, he threw for 5,124 yards, which shows he still has something there. And with a full year to get back healthy and back to form, I think he will do pretty well tonight. Moving on to James Conner, like you said, you probably want to start him if you have him in your on your team. I got him projected at 12. I think he'll do fairly well against the Giants defense. Juju, I think I got him projected at 8 points. I think he's going to get a lot of attention because he is the main guy on that team. As far as target wise, so I think he'll get a lot of attention from the defense. So I look for Deontay Johnson to get a little more targets tonight. I got him projected at 9 points, and he's also projected to have a top 5 matchup this week against Isaac.
Sleeper on your hands is what you're saying. Maybe somebody to put on the watch list for.
Yeah, maybe a flex. Sneak him in at flex or something.
Yeah.
Moving on to tight end, first year guy with the Steelers, pretty big name, I think a pretty big name myself, Eric Ebron.
It's a big name with Ben Roethlisberger throwing too.
Yes, he loves his tight end, so I got him projected around 7 points, just because I think they're going to spread it around a lot. He might not get as many targets with Deontay having a nice matchup, and of course Juju.
And I noticed they're treating week one. I noticed that, as I'm sure we all did on Sunday. Sorry to interrupt, but
you're fine.
Since they didn't have the preseason, they treated week one like the preseason. Even the Chiefs, they spread it around to everybody. They're trying to test their team out to see who's got it and who doesn't. So that's why I feel like your projection is. I agree with that. It's going to be low for this week, but Eric Ebron, he loves his tight ends, but he wants to make sure everyone else is on par. So sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. And another thing I did want to mention too, there's no fans in the stands for this game. That could play a big role for both teams. No fans means no noise when the Steelers are on offense to help the Giants defense, and no motivation for the Giants in general. So I think that could play a big role tonight. Moving on to the defense, Steelers are actually ranked the number 1 defense for the week. I have them projected at 9 points. They actually led the league in 3 categories, led or tied the league in 3 categories last year, with sacks at 54, with quarterback hits at 117, and takeaways at 36. And that's not a good sign for Daniel Jones, which last year had 12 interceptions and 11 lost fumbles, which for a total of 23 turnovers just by itself, which he led the league in fumbles with 18 total, but only lost 11. So not looking good for Daniel Jones. Also for the defense, T.J. Watt and Dupree, they're going against some subpar guys and younger guys on the Giants line tonight.
Yeah, and Dupree and Watt are monsters. So
Yes, they are very much so. Cam Fleming, who was actually signed as a backup, and he got thrust into the starting lineup when Nate Solder opted out of the season. So uh, going against T.J. Watt, which in a 3-year career he has 34.5 sacks, and his last year he had 14.5 sacks. So
he's gonna demolish this guy.
Cam Fleming's got his handful on that side of the ball.
If you drafted the Steelers defense, you are gonna get paid in dividends tonight for sure.
Another guy, the guy that Dupree is going up against, is a rookie, Andrew Thomas. This is his first game with no preseason, and so that's not who you want to start off against. I wouldn't think. Dupree is coming off his best year as in his career as far as sacks wise with 11.5. So tough matchup all the way around for the Giants tonight.
I agree. But Saquon's still gonna get his, I bet, regardless of how good.
Yeah, I mean it's
is, so.
like they say, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay, moving over to the Giants. Daniel Jones, I still got him projected at 15 points, and I think that has a little bit to do with little mobility. If he can hold on to it, he can pull it down and get you some yards if
needed. He's young. He's got that athletic ability.
Although he did gain 10 pounds in the offseason and added a little bulk, they're saying, to try to strengthen up and help out the ball security. So I'm not sure how that'll affect him as far as running. I would, who knows, really.
And plus, with Evan Ingram healthy, like he did spend a lot of last year, not a lot, but more than they would have liked, injured last year. But now he's coming in healthy, so I'm sure, and I'm sure you're about to say this, but just it was just on my mind. I think they're going to use Saquon because of Jones's turnover problems that he had last year. They're going to try to protect him as much during this week against a very aggressive and ferocious Steelers defense by leaning on Saquon a lot in passing and running, and also having Evan Ingram work the middle and kind of just find like what Jason Witten made a career off of for 20 years, finding the hole in the zone and just sitting in it until the quarterback throws it to you. So
yeah. Anyway. Okay, moving on to Saquon. I got him projected at 16 points. Like we said, I still think he'll get his. But I do think, like I said, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. I do think they might, with their defense that they have, I think they can slow him down a little bit. But I don't think he's going to get you some points. He's definitely still a start for sure.
I mean, if you rush the passer, they run a draw, which is basically zone blocking. So he just picks a hole and goes through it. You're right. He's going to get his no matter what.
He's got great field vision, and he's great at catching the ball out of the backfield. So look for some quick stuff maybe.
For sure.
Darius Slayton, I got him projected at 7 points. Sterling Shepard, I got him projected at 6 points. Golden Tate, I got him projected at 6 points, but I did see a report that he is in danger of missing the game due to a hamstring injury.
They just released that a few minutes ago from what you were telling me earlier.
Yeah, so if you got him and you got somebody else that you can fill in, I probably would go ahead and fill him in because even if he plays, he's going to be limited. And 6 points is not gonna.
If they can even get the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands,
Right.
he might be on the ground most of the night. So.
Right. Evan Ingram, a guy you talked about, he's a guy I really like at tight end. Which
I drafted him, by the way.
which I do. Tonight I have him projected at 8 points. Just pretty decent for tight end.
I'll take it.
And the Giants defense, I got them at 5 points. I think they
That's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Even I don't know. They're just a subpar defense. Definitely not a defense. There's too many good ones out there to get. The defenses are kind of like kickers. You can, like stream them with your matchups. And that's all I have.
Unless there's like that, there's usually 3, maybe 5, depending on the year, defenses that if you're lucky enough to draft, you can keep them all year, and then just whenever they have the bye week, take the goose egg and take it. If that means you lose, then so be it. But other than that, like you said, if it's low, if it's 6 or lower, it's matchup based every week. So
and it also depends on your league, like how many bench spots you got. You might have enough bench spots that you can add a defense and drop a lower end tight end. In our league we don't. You get 4 bench spots. So
you got to draft.
What you got is what you got.
I highly recommend you guys. We're trying something new this year. We dropped it down to like 3 or 4 bench spots.
It's 4.
4. So and there's on any given regular league, there's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 positions. So only 4 bench spots means you got to definitely choose who's the most important on your team. So like we said in the draft episode, running backs are really important. So we at least 2 of those bench spots have running backs, and then I got a quarterback in my backup position, and then I think I got a wide receiver just for the heck of it. So yeah.
And any of you guys that actually watched the draft episode, you saw what we're talking about with the running backs. They flew
off the board. Yeah.
And we weren't even expecting them to go that fast, and it threw us off. And that was our game plan to begin with, to get running backs. But
yeah, for sure. All right. Is there anything else you got to add to that?
That's all I have for that game.
All right. So that brings us to obviously the best team in the NFL, the future 2021 Super Bowl champions, the Tennessee MFN Titans, the juggernauts of the ground game, the most efficient of the passing game since week 6 of last year. I have the stats to back it up, and trust me, I will. Tighten up, baby. If you're a Titans fan, I got you in solidarity with me, my brothers and sisters. Show us some love, Titans fans, by putting some hashtag Tighten Ups in the comments whenever you see these videos. So I'm going to start with the Titans. Obviously, best team goes first in this matchup. The defense is ranked 12th. I think that's a little bit too low. I think they got us underrated as always. And I know I'm kind of sounding biased right now. I'm trying to amp up my attitude a little bit just because I'm a fan. But in all seriousness, these projections and these rankings and my opinions that I'm giving, I'm trying to do as unbiased as possible. I'm just trying to play it up to sound fun. But I do think the defense is ranked a little too low. I don't because I guess maybe because we lost Jarrell Casey, but I think people are sleeping on Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line. I trust in John Robinson. He helped build the Patriots dynasty when it was first starting, and I trust Mike Vrabel, who was a part of that dynasty as well. So if they feel like Jeffrey Simmons, they drafted him a couple years ago and he got a knee injury, so he missed his first year. But last year when he came back, he made some noise. He looked great. He trained hard to get back. I think there's number one, Jarrell Casey was asking more money than what his output, in my opinion, was going for. Plus, he's definitely on the back end of his career when you have Simmons right behind him on a rookie deal, and you want to get the most out of him as possible. So I don't disagree that they let him go, but I think they're not taking into account how good some of our players are. We did lose Logan Ryan. Adoree Jackson is out, so that's probably a little why a little bit the defense has dropped a little bit. But we still got Kevin Byard and Vaccaro, and we got Malcolm Butler playing. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad, in my opinion. And especially especially because of what's going on with the Broncos wide receiver situation. We'll talk about that in a second. Makes me think that we're ranked too low. Last year, the Titans had the best one of the best run defenses last year. And last but not least, the most important thing to know, we added Jadeveon Clowney to our team. Now,
monster.
He's a monster. Now, granted, he can be injury prone. Granted, if you look at his stats since he's been drafted, for where he was drafted at and what he was expected to do, his numbers are a little underwhelming. But we don't need we play such team defense. We don't need that 14 and a half to 16 sack monster. We don't need that. We just need people to play solid defense and to get us turnovers. And that's what we do best. We get the ball, not best technically, like by the NFL like rating standards, but that's one of the big important parts to our defense. I guess I should have said. We work on getting the ball back. Kevin Byard's an interception machine. Logan Ryan pick six Tom Brady in the playoffs last year. But what Jadeveon Clowney is, he will not jump off at you, jump off the paper at you when you look at his stats. But when you watch him play, the dude is a playmaker. And when there is something that needs to be done, more often than not, he will come through in the clutch for you. He reminds me about, now granted, I'm not comparing the greatness, but he reminds me of Troy Polamalu as far as when the team needs a stop or a fumble recovery or a forced fumble or an interception. Jadeveon Clowney has done it in his career in the NFL for the Seahawks and the Texans. And that's really all we're missing is another playmaker. We don't need him to be getting 14 sacks. Granted, that'd be nice, but if you remember the Chiefs game in the AFC Championship, rather, if we had a couple of turnovers, the game could have went a different way. And I think that's a good thing we added Jadeveon. I just wish we would have added him sooner so we had camp and some of the offseason to go over the defense. He signed so late. I'm sure defenses are probably easier than offenses. They're pretty much – plus he played with Mike Vrabel when Mike Vrabel was the defensive coordinator in Houston, so I'm sure they run something similar, and that's what led to the late signing. So I'm not 100% worried about it. I just wish he would have had a little bit more time with us.
It almost makes you reminisce about the freak Javon Curse. I think he could potentially be that type of player.
He can. He absolutely can. He can be either Javon Curse. He could be a Darius Leonard who's like sideline to see it sideline, or like or the Dallas linebacker core that's just Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith.
I was so disappointed to see Van Der Esch break his collarbone last night after going through a neck injury so much last night.
Yeah, that made me hurt. I'm not a Dallas fan, but I do appreciate good players that I know work hard and bust their asses. So it's sad to see that. That's a big blow for that defense. But
it is. We have a question in the comments if you want to address that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sorry, I got what's the question?
You want me to show it on screen?
Oh, yeah, please. How does a late starting time affect the Titans? I don't see it affecting them that much, just because the guys are professionals. It is a little too late, in my opinion. Like Drew and I were texting earlier, and I said about who schedules a prime time the last game at like 9 p.m. And Drew said it's not prime time, it's bedtime, and I agreed with him. But it's not bedtime for me because the Titans are playing. But
For sure.
any other night it would be. But I don't know if it'll affect them that much. They're really good as far as being structured. With how they spend their day. I'm sure they're going to take naps. They're going to warm up later in the day. They're going to spend or they probably spent most of the beginning of the day relaxing and chilling, and probably just honestly, with knowing Mike Vrabel, knowing John Robinson, knowing these veteran players that they have and how hungry they are and how close they got to a Super Bowl, they're probably using the extra time to watch more film, to do a little bit more walkthroughs. So honestly, I could see a later start time being a positive for them to gain a little bit more advantage. Um, because traveling to Denver, being the away team, you do get a little bit of time taken away from you because it's been traveling. So I think they might be able to catch up with that being a later start date or start time, excuse me. Um, so any
Wait to start up.
should I trade uh I don't know who's Michael Thomas for who
Yeah,
right
Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Cooper Cup, full PPR.
uh who's who's the other one?
Edwards-Helaire, that running back for the Chiefs.
Oh,
I believe that's what he's referring to.
for Michael Thomas. Is it full PPR? Me personally, if how did Cup finish last night? Because I didn't. I missed the final part of the game. I'm gonna say yes, but hold on. Let me check Cup's points because he's considered technically the third, but as much as they use him, he's definitely could be a wide receiver two, wide receiver one, easy. The thing is, the most important thing to ask yourself when you're doing 1-for-2 trades or 2-for-1 trades, are you starting both players that you're getting when you do that trade? Because all it is at the end of the day is what you need is more points. So if you in a trade can get more points in your starting lineup than you had before the trade, then yeah, I mean, do it. But if one of these players is sitting on your bench, basically, if you look at it, it's a 1-for-1 trade, and then it'd be lopsided. You wouldn't want to let Michael Thomas go. So what did Cooper score last night?
Just for reference, he finished with 5 targets, 4 receptions, 40 yards, and he only had 8 points.
He only had 8 points. He was in my top 5 for favorable matchups. So right now, I would say no. Let Michael Thomas gain draft stock. Let him continue to be his PPR machine. If the guy really wants Michael Thomas so bad right now, Michael Thomas is projected to get like how many receptions did he get last year? Like
149.
149. I saw a projection this year from DraftKings, and they deal in sports betting, so they don't say things lightly. I'm not saying I trust them, but they're expecting Michael Thomas to get 150 receptions and 1,700 yards receiving this year. So if that guy wants Michael Thomas that bad, he can wait a couple of weeks to let his stock go up. So maybe you can get Clyde and upgrade Cup to maybe a DeAndre Hopkins or type caliber player, or hell, even Julio Jones and Clyde. If Michael Thomas gets anywhere close to his, that might be reaching it a little bit. Usually in a 2-for-1 trade, I try to get what I consider a top tier player, whether it be receiver or running back. And then I try to get just the tier below, like a wide receiver 2, a running back 1, wide receiver 2, or something like that. So right now I'm gonna say no on that trade. Let Michael Thomas's stock go up a little bit more. So
yeah, I would wait as well. I feel like I don't know
What's
who.
up, Brandon? Anyway,
Oh,
sorry.
is he on? Hey, what's up, Brendan? Yeah, I feel like I would wait too because Michael Thomas, although he didn't have a great game yesterday, he had 3 catches for 17 yards. I feel like the guy that's trying to trade and get Michael Thomas, I feel like he's trying to bait
He's
you
buying
in that.
low.
He's trying to bait you into that trade. I feel like because Michael Thomas is not going to do that every game, and uh, the running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, yeah, he had a great game, but
Can
as a
you
rookie, can he do that? Can he sustain that?
exactly?
I'm just not sure. And with Cup being, like you said, basically a third receiver for them, I just don't see it.
Oh, and hey, Chloe, shout out to Chloe. That's my cousin, by the way. Just giving love to people that are out there. But yeah, like what Drew said, it's a classic phrase that's called buying low, selling high. It just depends on who's doing which side of it. And what he's trying to do is buy Michael Thomas low by making you think he's selling his players high.
Yep.
It's only week one. And they never had a preseason. I know I said that several times. So basically, the first 4 weeks, I would look at it as a preseason. I wouldn't make any trades unless it's like something stupid like Zeke for, like unless it's players that are gonna like just accomplish something. I would just even then, they haven't had a preseason, so this is the first time their bodies are exposed to game time type of movements. In practice, you can go as hard as you want, but when your adrenaline's pumping during a game and your muscles are twitching faster than they ever have, it's a different type. That's why people pull stuff randomly and stuff like that, or strain or tear. So I wouldn't worry. You have Michael Thomas, bro. I mean, I don't know your situation. If you need a running back that bad, and like you have your running backs are like Tariq Cohen and John Kuhn, or just somebody like that, then maybe think about it for sure. Because if the longer you hold out, the more games you're going to lose if you have a short running back. But if you're deeper at running back and they're decent running back twos like Kareem Hunt or something like that, I would wait till at least week 4 before you start thinking about trading. Just let these players get warmed up first and let them get an identity first. So,
And like you said, perfect example of not having a preseason and not having a real like off season. Blake Jarwin tore his ACL last night.
yeah, exactly. They're not in game shape.
On a non-contact play. He wasn't even touched and tore his ACL. So you gotta, like you said, you gotta let these guys kind of get a couple games, maybe 3 games under their belt, and then you can really tell who's gonna do what.
Yeah, you got to get into game. If any of y'all played sports at any point in your life, there's a difference in getting in shape for whatever sport you're playing, and then getting in game shape. There's 2 completely different things. Just like we had our wrestling podcast last night. If you guys get a chance, if you're wrestling fans, even if you're not, we talk about the Undertaker for like an hour at the end. So if you're an Undertaker fan, at least skip to the last part of it. He did a 7-part documentary series. It's very interesting to watch. We talked about it. Anyway, there's a thing called being in ring shape, just like being in sports shape. To be in ring shape means you can run and hit those ropes back and forth, running across the ring without bruising. Because when people first start coming back from injuries, that's the first thing they have them do. They run the ropes back and forth, and by the end of their first evaluation, their backs are bruised and have red marks all over them just from ring ropes. And then they got to practice falling on their backs, taking bumps to get their muscles calloused up in a way. So it's the same way with sports. You got to get the game shape back. But anyways, you got anything to add about that game?
Oh,
Yeah, mom. I love my mom. This is the great Nita Chisari, by the way.
the one and only.
We see you out there, Mom. We see you out there. Good show. Thank you, Mom. You kind of have to say
Thank
that. Yeah, I feel like it's your obligation after giving birth to me, but thank you for the compliment. Okay, so on to my favorite game of the night, or back to it, I should say, because I fell off of it. Just talked about the defense. Now I'm going to go into the actual like skill players and stuff of the game. Um, Ryan Tannehill, I got him ranked at 24th this week. Not because I don't like Ryan Tannehill. I'm one of probably the few people that think he should have got an extension. He came in during week 6 and turned the Titans team that was losing and ended the year with. I did not write the number down, but thankfully I remember. He finished the league. He had the most since week 6 when he started to the end of the year. He had the best QB efficiency rating. I think it was 157.4 as far as throwing the football. Granted, that's on low attempts because Derrick Henry ran the ball a whole lot. So, as you know how percentages work, the more attempts you have, the lower the number is going to be just naturally, unless you're 100% all the time. But that also shows me with the few pass attempts that they did have, he was very efficient on all of them. So that leads me to believe that the higher number of passes he gets, I mean, obviously the 154 or the 157 or the 154.7, I got those numbers mixed up. That might drop, but at the end of the day, it'll equal itself out because of the volume that he could be passing a little bit more. Because he is a very he was good in the Dolphins or playing for the Dolphins. He was just very underrated because he played on a terrible Dolphins team. Um, and that started with the coaching staff, and the defense was atrocious most of the time. He did have two good receivers, just Devontae Parker wasn't ready then, and Jarvis Landry wasn't mature enough then, in my opinion. But now that they've gone, Devontae grew up, Jarvis moved. I feel like they grew as players. But anyway, back to this. I'm not talking about the Dolphins anymore. Um, I feel like the pressure is not as high on Ryan Tannehill because he does have Derrick Henry to lean on a lot. So it's basically as long as Derrick Henry's going, he just doesn't have to turn the ball over and just make throws when he needs to. I feel like he doesn't even have to throw 200 yards for them to win the game if Derrick Henry's on fire like he should be. Um, and they also there's not pressure on him physically because of the play action pass that Derrick Henry is going to make the Broncos respect. Um, I also see because of those two things involving Derrick Henry, number one, them sucking the defense in on the play action. Number two, just playing running the ball a lot with Derrick Henry. Even if they stop them and stop them and stop them, I do not see the Titans abandoning the run until the absolute last minute. So that play action is going to give Tannehill time. So physically, I don't feel he's going to be pressured much. That also due to Von Miller being out for the season as well. So he's going to have less pass rushers. And they lost their defensive end, Wolf. He left as well. So two of their pretty good pass rushers are out. They do for the Broncos defense. They still have Bradley Chubb. He's healthy. But I don't know where they're going to line him up. But if it's over Taylor Lewan, I'm not worried about it. Now, the Titans did unfortunately lose one of their top offensive line picks to a DUI. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but he's probably not going to play this game. So that kind of worries me up front with Jarrell Casey being on the Broncos defense. But really, Mike Vrabel likes to run a zone run, kind of zone run into a pass kind of situation. So the good thing about a zone run is basically being a past offensive lineman myself, a zone block is basically you initiate contact. And then it's kind of a split-second reaction. You see which way the defensive player wants to go, and you just push him that way. You just let his momentum take him where he wants to go. And if everybody does that, that opens up holes in different places. And all the running back has to do is get the ball, pick which hole if he has good vision, and hit it, and then that's good, and then you're good to go. I feel like the combination of A.J. Brown, Jonnu Smith, and Corey Davis are still underrated. Granted, Corey only had like 600 yards last year, but he only had a real quarterback, in my opinion, because Marcus wasn't in a good spot with us. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback; he just wasn't good for our situation.
He wasn't in the right fit
Exactly,
for his skill set.
exactly. Like Greg Roman, he coaches Lamar Jackson. Like obviously, that's the type of coach that Marcus would need. But I think people are sleeping on the combo of Jonnu, AJ Brown, and Corey Davis. I still have faith in Corey Davis. This is a contract year for him, I believe, so he's definitely got something to prove for sure. Uh, and AJ Brown, I feel like they're going to continue where they left off, especially because of again play action, and they're going to force the Broncos to stack the box. They're going to make them stop Derrick Henry for sure. Speaking of Derrick Henry, on to him. He's ranked 12th. And I believe that's basically because Jarrell Casey is going to be anchoring the line, and the Titans lost one of their interior linemen to the DUI.
To add to that, the DUI, I did read they were reviewing on how they wanted to move forward, if they wanted to keep him or release him. Also, that is his second time with being in trouble. He was also on a police report on TSU campus a few weeks before the DUI. So
yeah, I remember hearing about that.
For trespassing.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But I don't think that's going to really affect Derek that much. The line's still solid, and like I said, they run his own blocking scheme usually. So it's not you don't zone blocking kind of covers up weaknesses in straight on run blocking where you have to push them to a certain place at a certain time. Last year. I'm sorry about that. I lost my place. Last year, obviously, Derrick Henry was the leading rusher with 1,500 yards and 16 touchdowns. The most important thing, I believe, out of his stats that was the most impressive, believe it or not, even though he got 1,500 yards and 16 touchdowns, the biggest thing is he had 5 yards per, I think it was 5 or 5.1 yards per carry. So every time he touched the ball, he got at least half of a first down before anyone brought him down. And even when you hit him and he falls forward, he gets at least 3 yards, So I think that's one of his biggest strengths. Because if all you have to do at 5 yards per carry is give it to him twice, obviously it's not rocket science, and you get a first down. So that's a very, very powerful thing when you're trying to set up play action. Especially, I feel like the hype because is the defending NFL leading rusher. The Broncos are going to be extra careful on defense. So look for that passing offense to surprise you a little bit. Which brings me to AJ Brown. He's ranked 16th this week. Again, just like I said with Tannehill, the play action and the running game are definitely going to open up the outside for these people. And Ryan Tannehill is going to have a little bit more time to throw because Von Miller is out. AJ Brown, just as you guys know, he's explosive. He's a cut and go type of player that I would call like OBJ or someone like that who literally can take a short slant route, make one cut, and then take and just go the distance like Tyreek Hill or somebody like that. And Chris Harris, also, he departed from the Broncos this offseason, who is one of their top cornerbacks, who I would assume would have covered A.J. Brown had he not left the Broncos. He is no longer there. So A.J. Brown, not only is he quick, he's good at getting off the line and stuff like that, but he's not facing a caliber defensive back like Chris Harris Jr. Is. And last year, just for point of reference, He topped 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he only had 52 receptions. So that just shows how big playability and how explosive he is. When he touches the ball, he makes it count most of the time. And on to the next wide receiver, my man, number 84, Corey Davis. I'm
If
not
I
giving
remember
up
correctly,
on.
I think
Do what? You're lagging. My fault, dude.
I was saying if I remember correctly, I think AJ Brown's first touchdown was on a slant that he took for
Yeah.
quite a few yards.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that, but now that you say it, I think I remember that. Yeah. So it just shows what he can do for sure. And so Corey Davis, he is ranked 66. This, like I said earlier, is the contract year for him. So I do feel like he's got something to prove, especially with another year with Tannehill, another year with Vrabel, another year in the offense. And again, a loaded box because of Derrick Henry. I still have not lost faith in Corey Davis. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He reminds me of Terrell Owens. Again, when I do these comparisons, I don't mean he's as good as Terrell Owens' career was. I think Terrell Owens should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, him and Randy Moss and Jerry Rice easily to me are three of the best, and Steve Largent are probably the four. And I'll say Michael Irvin because Drew's on here, but five of the greatest wide receivers to play of all time. But just from his look, his speed, his hands, his strength, the way he runs routes, coming in from college, he reminded me a lot of Terrell Owens. So I think just with all that God-given ability, that he's gonna definitely, if he's gonna do anything, it's gonna be this year because teams know about Derrick Henry, they know about AJ Brown. They know Jonnu can work the middle. He's not as dangerous as Delaney Walker as far as last year, but he knows how to work the middle. He learned from Delaney. And Tannehill's a very efficient passer, so they can't just double team Corey Davis all the time. So I feel like if he's going to do it any year, it's going to be this year. And And onto our tight end, like I said, Jonnu Smith. He's actually ranked 19th, which is not bad for tight ends, especially Jonnu in a team that usually is predominantly run. They do use their tight ends in the passing game a lot, though. Or not a lot, but a lot compared to teams that are predominantly run teams. The play action again. I know I keep going back to that, but it's just going to be so important when you watch the game. The play action is going to open up the middle for him for sure because those linebackers and safeties, if they bite on that play action, Jonnu can either sit in the hole that they're causing in the middle, or if the safeties come up really hard to stop that run to commit to it, he can even take a seam route and like a seam, a fly, whatever you want to call it, depending on where they're lining up at. He can even just audible to it, do a little, back right over the outside shoulder and be good to go. Or he can sit in the zone, get 5 yards. Derrick Henry punches 5 yards and then move the chains first down. And yeah, so that's all I have for the Titans. So with the Broncos, believe it or not, their defense is rated 10th, even though they lost Derek Wolfe, Chris Harris. Derek Wolfe was one of their defensive linemen who was he was good against the run, but he was more like a pass rusher. Chris Harris Jr., one of their good cornerbacks, especially when they're at the top of their game, and they had I believe T.J. Ward, they had Chris Harris and uh, Aqib Talib. But Chris Harris is gone now, so that defensive backfield is officially gutted from those days. Like I said, they lost Von Miller for the year with a freak ankle injury, but thankfully they're getting Bradley Chubb back, who was one of their top draft picks to rush the passer. So they at least have one pass rusher. and they've shown in the past that they can make good defensive teams happen with just one pass rusher, like they did with Von Miller. So Bradley Chubb steps up and becomes what they think he'll be. I think it'll alleviate what the defensive backs have to deal with because there's not the greatest defensive backfield in football. Locke, their quarterback, he is rated number 31 out of 32 quarterbacks, so hard fade him for sure. Don't have him on your team. He needs to show if he can improve off of his, I would say, decent considering the expectations for him. Decent first season with a very lackluster cast. I mean, he basically had Philip Lindsay, he had Font, the tight end, and Cortland Sutton caught on. But they were all inexperienced and or young. So he did pretty well with what he had. Thankfully, though, for him, they did draft two receivers, one in the first round, one in the second round. The first round one being the most important this week, Jerry Jeudy, because Cortland Sutton is Thursday. Listen to this, questionable, and he was limited in practice Thursday and Friday because of a shoulder injury. Like we've said before, if it's Thursday or Friday and they're still getting sidelined and they're questionable, they may not play, and even if they do, they may not be a contributor, and they could get you like a 0 or maybe 2 points or something like that. And it's not really worth. I love Cortland Sutton. Don't drop him. Keep him on your bench or an IR if you have IR spot in your league. Don't give up on him, but I would definitely pick up Jerry Jeudy. If you need like a flex or something like that, or just someone last minute to replace Cortland. Well, it's Monday night, so just about all your players are locked. So if you had Cortland Sutton in your lineup, and you feel like he's gonna play like 100% or 80%, then by all means keep Cortland Sutton in your lineup. But if you don't feel like risking it, definitely if Jerry Judy's in your free agent waivers, definitely pick up Jerry Jeudy and replace him for Cortland Sutton, or at least I would. There's really not many other choices other than that if since it is the last game of the week. But yeah, Jerry Jeudy looks really good. Like I said, we talked about Cortland Sutton. Even though he's questionable and he may not play, he's still ranked 74th. But he's been sidelined with that injury, so I would probably fade him in my opinion. Philip Lindsay, he was ranked 35th this week. He definitely has a lot of PPR value. Granted, his value is not as much as it was last year because they did pick up Melvin Gordon in the offseason. So Melvin Gordon is a touchdown machine. Like, he'll find the end zone. He'll probably be the touchdown vulture of the team. But they'll definitely use Philip Lindsay quite a bit in different ways to give him the ball in space because they I feel like they like him. But he's more like a PPR type of flex player, in my opinion. If I had to start one of two on my team, in my starting running back and one in my flex, I would definitely put Melvin Gordon in my starting running back lineup and put Philip Lindsay in my flex. But he was very versatile, like I said, and even running the ball, he had over about 4.3 yards per carry or 4.4 yards per carry last year, and over 1,000 yards rushing, even though he is a small guy and he had a bad line. He's definitely worth a flex spot sometime in the future. Melvin Gordon, ranked 20th, even though he didn't play a full season last year. He definitely, like I said earlier, he definitely has a nose for the end zone. And he can be a sneaky pass catcher, even though he didn't play a lot of the season. I think he had like 43 receptions in the little time that he played, and about 400 or 500 yards receiving, which is good considering when he actually started playing, and not being in game shape on top of that. So, and then the tight end Noah, he's ranked 13th this week. He's going to be a reliable target for Locke, just as far as just bailing out, being a security blanket, just in case Jerry Judy, and their other rookie wide receiver that they drafted, just in case they don't turn out to, in case our veteran secondary keeps them in check, and our defensive line and everything can kind of contain Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. I feel like Noah, their tight end, Noah Font, there is going to be a security blanket for Locke. Um, and we'll see an increase, even more if Cortland Sutton is out, because that just takes away more targets from Cortland, and so those targets have to go somewhere. So it's either going to go to uh, more Jerry Judy, or they're going to split it up evenly. So my takeaway from this game is, or my takeaways, I should say, can Derrick Henry repeat close to what he did last year? I feel like that starts with this week, because if he can't get over 100 yards rushing against this defense, then I don't think he's going to repeat 1,500 yards. I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, it's kind of like a preseason game in general. So also, I feel like Tannehill and AJ Brown have to build off of last year. I feel like not necessarily they have to prove themselves, but they definitely have to show that last year wasn't a fluke, and they can even get better on top of that because they have more time now. Corey Davis is in his prove-it year, so I expect him to step up. Maybe not get 1,000 yards, but maybe get close, like 850, 900, something like that. And I'd like to see him get at least 6 or 7 touchdowns. That would be good enough for me for them to sign him to an extension. Not a super great one, but it's good to have him around, in my opinion. The Broncos, I believe, are going to rely heavily on the run if Cortland Sutton doesn't play. So I see Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay getting involved a lot, whether it be in the running game or the passing game, depending on which running back's in the game. And also my last takeaway from it is, how will Jarrell Casey respond to this? And how will the offensive line respond to Jarrell Casey? Because I feel like this could be a revenge game for Casey. And as we said on our Sunday episode, players seem to amp it up a little bit when it comes to chip on their shoulder, or the loss of a loved one, or if something's really going on in their life. Hey, what's up, Dylan? Oh man. But yeah, I think this could be a game where Jarrell Casey plays over the top good and is not a full representation of what he'll do the rest of the season. But I feel like this will give him the emotion to really just maul fools up the middle. So I'm interested in seeing how that plays out, or if we can contain him. Having him on our team for so long, practicing against him, I'm pretty sure we know his tendencies as far as where he likes to go, what gaps he likes to shoot, what moves he likes to use, to get off blockers. But still, you can't stop the X factor, which is passion and emotion. So anyway, down to my points. Tannehill, I got him 17 across the board. Derrick Henry, I got him at 17 in PPR, 15 in standard. AJ Brown, 14 in PPR, 11 in standard. I think that the number is that high, 14, because of the big playability that he has. Like I said, off a play action pass or something like that. Corey Davis, I got him at 10 PPR, 8 standard, just because I don't see him as a deep threat, but I definitely see him working the middle, working the crossing routes, the posts. Maybe even like the real short comeback routes. He, like more of a possession type guy. And then Johnny Smith, working over the middle, I got him at 8 points PPR, 6 standard. And on to the Broncos. Locke, I got him at 16. So him and Tannehill kind of have similar days, just because of different reasons. Though Titans rely more on the run. Lock doesn't really have much to rely on. Period. So I got him at 16 across the board. Cortland Sutton, question mark because he's questionable. He was sidelined Thursday and Friday. So it could be a goose egg, could be 2 points. They could be faking it, and he scores 25. All I know is when he's healthy, he should be in your starting lineup. But if he hasn't, if he's been on the sideline Thursday and Friday when they don't have, when they, they don't practice in pads and stuff like that, um, or like full year, I should say. It's definitely not a good sign. So because of that, I got Jerry Judy at 12 in PPR and 9 in standard. I also have Philip Lindsay 9 in PPR, 6 in standard because I feel like he's gonna get a little bit more share of the targets. Gordon 12 in PPR, 11 in standard because I feel like he's definitely the starting back in that backfield, and Lindsay's just going to come in to spell him or in passing downs. Noah Font, I got him at 10 in PPR, 7 in standard because, like I said, I feel like he's going to need to be locked security blanket. So he's going to get targeted a lot, whether or not he kept. Depends on what your definition of a lot is, but it just depends on, I believe he's at least going to get targeted 7 or 8 times. So if he can get, 4 or 5 catches off of that, he probably turn that into 50 yards or something like that. So the only difference I see him getting is if maybe he gets a red zone touchdown, that might just jump it up to 16 or something like that. So, but anyway, those are our predictions as far as what we think about the game, a little bit of information about the teams in general, so you can use that going forward, making decisions, and then as well as our projections on their points. Again, sorry that we didn't make the Steelers game in time for you to make any changes. We had a little bit of difficulty with the internet connection. We will make sure that's fixed before next week so that doesn't happen again. But yeah, definitely. I hope the Titans breakdown helped you out. And if you have any of those players, whether it be Broncos or Titans, on your team or both, I would recommend probably, unless it's Jerry Judy or Melvin Gordon, and you had, like Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, I would probably favor more Titans players in this game than Broncos players. So. Anyway, Drew, you got anything to add before we cut this off and let these people enjoy Thursday night football?
Go Cowboys, even though we lost.
Yeah, Titans for life too. I feel you. All right, guys. Well, it has been a blast, and the next time we will see you is going to be on Tuesday to recap the entire week from Thursday to Monday and see where we were at, how close we were on points projections, how close we were on how we felt about the game and our takeaways of how it would go. We'll see how we compare with our first week, see if we're worth our weight in what we say. So I'm excited, and I hope you guys are too. So until next time, like we always say, come with us if you want to win. All right. Peace.